Mike and Knight.
Our news, our business.
Hey, hold on. Whatever. One more time. Let's try that again. Mike and Knight.
Our news, our business.
Hey, let's go, y'all.
Let's do it.
Hey, check this out. I know a few of you guys out there would love this topic. So that's why we chose to do it today. We brought it up just a little bit earlier because this, of course, is Self-Improvement Thursday. So we have to make sure that we talk about self-improvement.
Absolutely.
And dealing with your family members, is that not self-improvement? How you can do a little bit better with the people of whom you love?
Sure. Everybody can always do better.
Now, I just want to say this. I'm going to throw this out real quick.
Okay.
I know you do have a public service announcement, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Go ahead and get to that real quick before we go forward.
Okay, so for everybody that's not aware, the city and county of Denver, and this goes between Sunday, November 8th to December 7th, that non-essential businesses like restaurants, bars, gyms, and other recreational type facilities, etc., will be closed by 10 p.m.
So you guys just keep that in mind. They'll be closed by 10 p.m. and this is essential. Okay, so these essential services.
So no. Non-essential services. Non-essential services.
All right.
Like restaurants, bars, gyms, and other recreational facilities. And this includes liquor stores, guys. So that means you want to get your Hennessy and your Steel Reserve and get all that together before 10 p.m.
Now, this is Self-Improvement Thursday, so do not tell them to get Steel Reserve, please.
Please. However, delivery and takeout options will still be available in restaurants after 10 p.m.
Okay.
Now, they are also asking, I'm going to say asking and not mandating, that you don't gather in large groups that don't involve members of your household.
Okay, cool.
And also, don't travel unless essential between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.
All right. Okay.
So again, they're just asking that for now. They're not mandating it. Right?
Okay, so cool. We got it.
Okay.
Let them know.
Yeah, so everybody know now.
All right.
You didn't know already.
Already. So this is what we want to do today. We want to get into this family business. Check this out. I heard a topic today. They were talking about Chance the Rapper. His wife said that they don't have a perfect family. Now, I don't know why they had to tell us that, because they black folks. I already know that they don't have a perfect family.
Right.
I ain't seen a perfect family yet.
Not even the Brady Bunch.
Or the Cosby Show. They wasn't family.
Wow.
I mean, they wasn't perfect at all.
Theo had his little weed and all that. Remember that?
Right. When they found the weed on Theo. But anyway, check this out. We're going to get into this today. We're going to take our little short break like we always do, and then we're going to hop right into it. We ain't got no time to spare today. We ain't going to waste. We know that this is going to be a power-packed show, so we want to make sure y'all get in there and get with it. It's just a family affair, you guys. We got to talk about this though today.
We do.
I had some. Now I want to let you guys know before we even get started. Mike at Night.
Our news, our business.
Hey, if you hear at nighttime,
then you hear at the right time.
And that's how we do it. So check this out. We're gonna allow you guys to call in today, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna call in on Messenger. You can call in on Messenger on my page, Terry Spears. You can call in on that. We do have some problems with our audio on that, so you will have to speak up and speak clearly. If you call in and your phone's shy, you're talking low, I'm not going to be able to hear you. So make sure that when you do call in that you're speaking loud enough for us to hear you. That means you're going to have to speak a little louder than you normally do. My voice projects a little bit, so I don't really have that problem. But if you do decide to call in, keep in mind that you have to keep your voice up. Also, don't forget to tag and share. Let's get into it. So, Do you have any toxic family members? I'm asking you guys out there. I'm gonna go ahead and ask my co-hosts as well. Do you have any toxic family members?
Absolutely, I do. Now, before I get started, I have to be very, very careful of who of what I say, because I don't want to throw any names out there. But you guys out there that know me, know who some of my toxic family members are, and we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I believe that everybody does have toxic family members. Now, how we deal with them, that's what we're going to be discussing
That's
today.
what we're going to talk about today. So, I had a few questions that I wanted to throw out there, just a few topics of discussion when it comes to these toxic family members and what we should do with them. How should we deal with them? Mr. Romero says he does have toxic family members. I understand that. And how do we deal with them? How do we deal with these people that may cause some cantankerous moments, if you will, in our lives? One of my first questions, though, is to ask, do you guys think that choosing to be absent is an option? Because some people say, listen, if I have toxic family members and they're not, on the level, or they always bring drama or problems, then the best thing for me to do is to just leave them alone and not spending time with them and not go around them. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would definitely agree with that. That kind of sums up everything when we're talking about toxic family members. But unfortunately, some of us are in positions where we do have to deal with them. So how do we deal with them? Now, when we talk about choosing to be absent out of their lives, what degree are we talking about choosing to be absent? Are we talking about just not showing up to the birthday party? Are we talking about shutting them off of your Facebook or blocking them? There's all type of things that you can do to limit the contact that you need to have with these certain type of family members.
So I want to say this, that choosing to be absent always isn't an option, because you may live with these toxic family members, or you may have to frequent places where they are. Mm-hmm. So I think that one of the best ways to deal with it is to set yourself boundaries. Okay, and when I say boundaries, that means you have to let them know what it is that you will and will not put up with. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have family members that, they knew us as children, so now that we're a little bit older, they feel like they can say certain things to us, or get away with saying certain things to us, or give us unsolicited advice that we didn't ask for, right. And kind of try to sit in judgment on our lives. I believe that setting a boundary for these family members and let them know that, look, I'm an adult now. You're going to have to treat me as such when we interact. How do you feel about that?
Sure. The bad part about it is that some family members are still not going to respect your boundaries. Now, if you do at least set them, then you at least set the template for what you will and won't allow, and so that if they do continue to cross into those lines, then you take the next step. But yeah, unfortunately, everybody's not going to conform to your template of what your boundaries are, the boundaries that you've established.
Okay, so if they don't respect those boundaries, how do we move forward towards to getting them to kind of respect those boundaries? Joe Broussard says that he has toxic family members on his white side, but the black side, he just put an emoji up there. Now, as black folks, we all know that we got some toxic family members. We have some members that are dealing with, and I kind of wanted to get into that as well. We have some members that are dealing with substance abuse, alcohol, things along those lines, and there are certain boundaries that we have to set for those people.
Right.
Let me say this. I want to give you a quick story of something that I have some inside information on. How do you feel about aunts and uncles commenting or making statements regarding nieces and nephews? Do you think that's in place or out of place for them to make comments about their upbringing or what they're doing?
It just depends on who the person is.
Okay.
If you're somebody who is well established as being a knowledgeable person, a reasonable person within the structure of that family, then maybe you deserve some listening to. Now, I didn't say that you have to do what they say, but perhaps it would deserve some listening to. Now, pretty much anybody can tell when somebody's giving you garbage and when they're giving you the real. And you know who the toxic people are. So what I would suggest is that you just learn how to be cordial with the toxic ones, maybe just listen, but you don't necessarily have to take it for value. But just to keep the peace sometime, I would just recommend that you be cordial, not give too much personal information about yourself, not give too many opinions about the things that you really feel about, because once they get a hold of that information, what they'll do is they'll take it and they'll twist it. And they'll try to tell other family members that you're this deceptive type of evil type of person, when in fact that's not the case.
Okay, so right here we got someone that said, Jock says, I hate when people know but act like they don't, and then he said it's out of pocket. He believes it's out of pocket. Nathan Romero says you cannot tell a stubborn, negative person how to understand or not judge. That person has to get right with themselves first. So this, I want to give a little bit more background information into this story to see if you guys can understand where I'm coming from. I think we kind of tackled it from different positions, but I want to say this. Let's say that we have a family member, okay? And let's say this aunt or uncle probably wasn't the best person in the past. Or they have some checkered past or shaded or, probably did things that were inappropriate in the past.
Sure.
Can they now counsel a younger family member for doing those exact same things?
I don't really think so, because I think that you have to lead by example, like I was saying. For instance, and I'll tell this a little quick story. So there's a guy that I know who keeps getting into it with his 14-year-old nephew. He has got to the point to where he's put his hands on him and done all this other type of stuff, and his sister's sick of it and about to kick him out of the house. Well, this guy, he's somewhat toxic, and he doesn't lead by the example that he preaches. And so therefore, his little nephew doesn't respect him and will not respect him until he gets his own self together and lives by the things that he's trying to preach.
So, okay, well then that leads me to my next question.
Okay.
What if that person has rehabilitated? What if that person is a different person now?
Okay, well then your actions always speak louder than your words. So I can tell you one thing, but if I'm not practicing it, it's just like if I tell you to wear a mask in public, but I don't do it myself, then I'm just a hypocrite and my words are empty.
Okay, so if I can get something from you guys out there, I don't know, is it right or is it wrong? Let's say that, he's a pastor now or something like that. He's a pastor and, he used to, chase women and do drugs and all of that. Can he then look at someone who is going down that same road and say, you know what, this probably isn't the best way to go. You need to change your life. You need to start doing things that are more respectful in nature.
Right. And usually the issue with the toxic person is that they really need to work on themselves, because they shouldn't be so worried about what you're doing anyway unless it's affecting them negatively.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about pastors and stuff like that, most pastors have some sort of history for them to be able to get to the point to where they have had them life experiences to where that they can learn more about themselves and be able to counsel other people. So no, I'm not saying that you can't be rehabilitated, but it just might be too late. You should have became a pastor, or maybe you should have got on your studies far sooner than you did to be able to try to preach to somebody else. Okay,
let me say this, and I want to jump in real quick. Thank you, Latasha. She agrees with you. Ms. Mays agrees with you on those different issues. Nathan Romero says, I would say that the younger generation should hear what that person has to say, but with another who knows said person. I'm willing to listen, but I'm calling a spade a spade. So this is what I want to say. I believe that there is wisdom in a multitude of counsel, first off. Okay, I don't think that if someone is doing the wrong thing, that they cannot be called out on what it is that they are doing. Okay, regardless of the person that's talking to them about doing it. I don't like to shift the focus to the person who's counseling to start questioning their credibility when we have someone right now currently who is acting way outside of character.
Sure, I hear what you're saying. You can gather that wisdom from all over the place. For instance, maybe even somebody who's on drugs, and you see the struggles that they're going through and that they're dealing with, then I think that they absolutely would be an appropriate person to tell you that, hey, this is what this consists of when you get involved in drugs and alcohol or other negative things in your life. So those people can absolutely counsel you also.
Now, I got a big one for you. How do you feel about family members that are using other family members? Like writing other, maybe a little bit, if I had to say, family members that are a little bit more susceptible to helping out more than they should.
Okay.
Do you think that you should comment as someone on the outside looking in on them using that aunt, uncle, mother, daddy, or father, or whatever? Do you think they should comment on that or no?
Well,
Do you think the other family members have a place to talk?
I think that, listen, a relationship has to work two ways. So if I'm the
You guys make
individual-
sure you tagging and sharing on this. Go
Absolutely.
ahead.
So if I'm the individual who's always giving, and that might mean monetarily. You know, a lot of your toxic family members, they're always asking you for money. They're always asking you for this and for that. They need a place to stay, but they don't offer you anything financially, emotionally. So really, if it's not a two-way relationship, then I would encourage you probably to let that person go.
Okay, so check this out. I call it there's two different generations that I see going on. Okay, I got the busy line generation, and that's what I call them. The busy line generation, and then you have the social media generation.
Right.
Okay, now the kids that have been on social media and things, these days the type of things that I hear is, you have to give respect to get respect. You got to respect these younger kids or they're not going to respect you. And this is what I hear, and I'm kind of like, hold on. I'm from the busy line generation. You know, when you made a phone call and if that person was on the phone, it was just busy. We don't have that these days. It's different. Now, when I was coming up, and a lot of my family members that are on here, they'll hear and know this. When my aunt or uncle said something to me, that was law. That was, and hold on, let me go ahead and include older cousins. You understand what I'm saying? Them older cousins. When an older cousin says something to you, that was it. When they're like 40, 50, 60 years old, you don't question anything they say. And one thing that would never happen back then, I know one time, me and my cousin had got into a fight. And my uncle jumped on us pretty good. Well, we come back in the house crying. Well, his older brother and sister are there. My uncle's older brother and sister are there. They don't say nothing to him. It is what it is. You know, maybe you guys were doing something that wasn't right, and he had to get on you. In today's generation, you know what? That mama might come in and cuss you out and tell you, don't you ever be putting your hands on my kids,
right,
and this and that, and who do you think you are? You ain't nothing but a washed up drunk. And she'll say all of this in front of these children. Do you think that's fair? But before we answer that question, let me get to this real quick. She said, if you know the person, me, yes. But if you think it's going to mess up y'all's relationship, no. Okay, so I think she's answering the question if you should be intervening or commenting on family members that are being used. But what do you think about that? I mean, these days it's like if you talk to a kid or try to counsel them on something, you know, you got their mother or father that want to step in and be like, hey, you know, I got this. Don't you say nothing to me about my kids and this and that.
Well, that's just a sign of the times, and really you got to think back to maybe when some of us who are older were back in school, and our teachers and our principals and counselors were allowed to discipline us to a certain degree. And you got to look at these aunts and uncles that you took their word for as law. You got to look at who their parents were. Their parents were our grandparents. And our grandparents grew up in a whole different era where respect was key. And
right,
that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So when you have and somebody said the 85 babies.
Exactly. 85 and above.
When you think about that era in particular, you got to think about those parents were. You got to think about what was going on in the black community at that time as far as crack and jail and murder. All those things were at a much higher rate back then.
But hold on, let me say this. I dealt with that in my immediate family as well, and I've seen other families deal with that as well. However, the respect aspect of it, never, if my uncle was smoking crack, if my uncle was an alcoholic, if my uncle just got out of jail for murder, and I had an uncle like that. But anyway, hold on.
You still respected him, yes?
You still, if he told you something, regardless of who he was as a person, that did not come into question. If he told you to do something and it was not outside of the lines of what you need to be doing, now one thing my mother would say is that we don't go get drinks. Now, you can't tell my kids to go get you a beer. You go get your own beer. She would not allow us to do that. But anything else, listen, if they told you to do it, then you need to knock that out. You don't need to be talking back. You don't need to be arguing with them. You don't need to come talking to me about who my uncle is and, my uncle, he so-and-so. Yeah, he been like that ever since we was kids. You know what I'm saying? You don't be talking.
And, man, I've also noticed this in the younger generation. So some of them tend to call their aunts and uncles by their first name. They just holler off, hey, Linda, hey, David, hey, Steven. Now, let me tell you something. That never flew with me. With my aunts and uncles, I was always made to call them aunt or uncle, whoever. And so when my kids came around, they weren't allowed to call their aunts and uncles by their first name either. No matter if they were toxic or not, you were still going to maintain that certain level of respect. You're not going to cuss around them. And to this day, my kids are grown and they still won't cuss around me. And I appreciate that. And that's how I talk them.
Okay, and Nate threw something in there. I'm going to just put his in a nutshell. He was talking about, the infighting amongst family members and how, family members will go behind your back and say things to other family members about you to kind of try to discredit you.
Sure.
And that's what he's probably saying in a nutshell. But this is what I want to say. I don't think that it's fair that we discuss the siblings, like if we got nieces and nephews, with the children. Am I going to say that I haven't been guilty of that at times? Yes, I have. I have been guilty of that sometimes, but I don't think that it's fair because now we have catapulted. It's almost like doing drugs with your children. You have catapulted them up to your level, and now they want to interact with your brothers and sisters the same way that you do. Think Plenty Parker says this: just because your parents raised you a certain way doesn't make it right. Times change, people change, but respect remains. I do get that. I think that there is a certain level of respect that still needs to stay in there. But let me say this: when we start talking about toxic family member, because we threw out a catchphrase there that I hear a lot about, I hear a lot of in the black community. Mm-hmm. We like to talk about somebody disrespected me. We hear that all the time. This person is disrespectful. That person's disrespectful. This person disrespected me. Those kids are disrespectful. You need to clearly define what you mean is disrespect. Disrespect to me, my defined idea of what disrespect is when somebody is violating your morals, your personal morals or beliefs in an attempt to demean you or belittle you. I believe that is disrespect. Now, if your beliefs is getting drunk and high, that's not what I'm talking about. If I come in and you my nephew or you my niece or whatever, and I take your bag and throw it and flush it down the toilet, I didn't disrespect you. I'm forcing you or trying to at least allow you to respect yourself. Now, I know a lot of you guys are not going to agree with me, and I'm saying this as well. My brother that was over here the other day, you know who you are. If you want to mention that, you can. If not, because I know you're listening. He said to me, listen, when he talked to his children, because he said one of his kids kind of blamed him for doing something, it wasn't that child that actually did it. He said, listen, I'm a parent. I'm not perfect. There are things that I'm going to do and judgment calls that I'm going to make that won't be always the right thing, but I'm doing it in your best interest. And to me, I think that's the crux of the whole argument. When we are dealing with these with this younger generation, are we doing it with the right spirit behind it? What the message that we're giving them, is it a credible message? Can it help them? Because I don't care if the person was a drug addict, a thief, or a crackhead back in the day. If they're telling you something to keep you straight and from going down that road, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, yep. I would tend to agree totally.
So I mean, our parents raised us a certain way, and I know that it doesn't make it right. Times do change.
But just as long as you're acting with your heart and not your mind, I think that pretty much you're going to make the best decisions. Now, like my man just said, no parenting is perfect. I don't care who you are or what you are. No parenting is perfect. But if it's coming from your heart and not necessarily your mind, because your mind can trick you and you can get real upset and get even angry. But if it's from the heart, and it has pure intentions, then I think you'll be okay with the message that you're trying to send out.
Okay, so but I'm going to tell you this. Sometimes it's not always received like that because people these days don't really want other folk dealing with their children, and sometimes you'll get criticism from outside of the family.
And what's really sad when we talk about the kids, when we talk about toxic relationships with our family members, sometimes that does bleed over into the children as well. So you may have a couple of nieces and nephews who respect you immensely, but because of that toxic family member that you either chose to cut you off or you cut them off, and now they're constantly talking bad to your niece or nephew about you, then they may start to feel some sort of way about you. So I would just say, really, you should leave the kids up out of that messiness and let them decide for their own, which it's real easy to see, guys. It's not real hard to find out who's toxic and who's not.
Okay, so how do we deal with creating these type of ways to coexist with these family members? Because if you, let's say, for instance, you have that, she said it gets sticky, however, we must keep the children in the forefront. Correct. Let's say we have that toxic family member that refuses to be more congenial or amicable in the way that they relate or deal with the other family members, i.e. cousins, aunties, uncles, and things along those lines.
I would say that you don't necessarily have to deal with them people. Now, you may run into them, like I said, at a barbecue or something like that. And I would just suggest just to be cordial, for instance. But as far as me getting really deep into your business or allowing you deep into my business, see, I keep you away to protect my own emotional space. It's not that I hate you because I hate nobody. I love, support, and protect all my people. But if you violate my emotional space, then I must put a barrier up around you because you don't understand what the barrier is. So I'll create a wall.
Okay. Well, let me say this. Let me say this real quick. I know that there are ways that you can coexist, and I don't necessarily think myself that cutting yourself off from other people is an answer to dealing with them. I don't. I think that there are ways that you can find to, I mean, when we have a problem, let me just say this. When we have a problem within our family, I think it takes a family to solve that problem. I don't think that problem can just be solved by one person getting active inside of that person's life. When we have an uncle that's on drugs, it should be all of us that stick together and say, hey, we've recognized some things in you and we think that you should change. We don't think that you should continue doing the things that you're doing. Why can't the family sit in and say, you know what? Listen, man, you have a problem right now, and that problem needs to be addressed. And until it is addressed, we're going to treat you differently. We're going to treat you differently. We're not going to treat you like we treated you before because we see that you have an issue. But cutting family off is not right because maybe these people need help. And when that other family member is talking about that person, maybe that's what they're trying to do. Like, hey, you guys, let's put our heads together. Maybe, like my man said, maybe I'm not the right person to talk about this with. But maybe you need to take that on. But I've heard people say, oh, well, you know what? It ain't my business, ain't my concern. If they want to be a fool, just leave them alone. Let them be a fool.
Okay, I understand that. But now, specifically when we're talking about drug addiction now, none of us are counselors. We're not psychologists. We didn't go to school to learn how to deal with these.
Well, some of us probably have.
Well, some of us have, but a lot of us haven't.
Okay.
A lot of us have not. So, and if this person has continued to show who they are over and over again, at what point do you draw the line and say, you know what? I pray for you. I hope the best for you. But at this instance in time, until you can get the proper help that I'm not qualified to give you, I'm going to have to create some space between us because I can't allow you to be doing this around my children. If I allow you into my house, do I have to watch everything? Are you going to steal? You know, it's all those different factors involved when we're talking about drug addiction. And as we know, drugs itself is the basic meaning of toxin. Toxin equals poison. Poisons are things that we want to flush out of our system, not maintain.
Okay, so let me say this. When we're talking about, certain drug addictions, there's a line that I draw. And this is the line that I draw. Manipulative, lying, and stealing.
Stealing.
Those are things that are very, very difficult to deal with a toxic family member.
Sure.
I have family members right now that I don't necessarily, I would love to have them in my home, but I can't have them in my home. I have family members that are much are my age or even older that I can't have in my home because I know what they're about. They've been this way for a long time. Now, will I sit and have a beer with them, talk to them about us growing up back in the day and joke and go back and forth? Yes.
At the barbecue or at your house?
It might not be at my house. I'll do it at their house because they can't steal nothing at their own house, but
Right.
they can definitely take something from mine. So
Sure.
I try not to play with that, but I don't want to cut you off. What I want to do is see some progress in you so that I can put you back in that position of trust. Like Nathan says here, okay, she says, let me get to Desiree, she's in there. I have a family member who I love dearly, but they put the IC in toxic. But they have their good days, good times. When they're good, I hold on to every second of time with them, having a clear head. But the minute that the other side surfaces, I have to put them, where was we at? We have to put them on ice, and it hurts. But I have to, for my kids' sake, I have to break the cycle of abuse. And she is absolutely right. Now, does that mean that when she puts that person on ice that she's wrong? No. She's protecting herself and she's protecting her family at the same time. And this is what I'm saying. This doesn't mean that now we just stop talking about that person. Like, you know what? I don't even talk to them. I don't talk about them, none of that. No. As a family, I think we should come together and say, you know what, if this person is having an issue, maybe we can see if we can get to the bottom of it. Now, if it's been several attempts and tries and we can't get to the bottom of it, then maybe there are some other means that we need to explore to try to deal with that toxic family member.
Sure, sure. I agree with that, but I also see the other side of it.
And what's that?
Now, like I was saying earlier, when we're talking about drug addiction, that's really a mental illness. And again, if you're not qualified to help anybody who has a mental illness like drug addiction, then I don't know that anything you do, say, or any plan that you and your family come up with is going to work for them. They have to get the professional help that is necessary before they're able to be able to come at you with some type of reasonableness that makes sense to you. And like you said, you want to see the progress. Well, you and your family aren't qualified necessarily to help them with them issues. So I wouldn't necessarily say turn my back on them, but I would say to let them get in some space that's away from you so that they can figure out what it is they're doing, who it is they're harming, and if they want to make changes, to be able to be a productive member of y'all's circle or family.
Okay, and I get that as well. But I just kind of wanted to touch on the drug addiction aspect because, you know, it comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. It even comes in different ages as well, and in many different races. So there is a way that we as black people have to deal with people that have drug addiction. No, so I'm not saying that we address their addiction head on because we are counselors, but there is a way that we have to respond to them because they are drug addicts at this point.
Right. And I'm going to respond to Joe. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but he says toxic people are draining. Absolutely they are. You know, there's just some people that if they call you, text you, or send you an email, if you dread responding to them, and if you do deal with them and you're drained after it, that might be a sign that you might want to let this person go.
Well, she said, Latasha says that, you know, professional help is the key.
Yeah.
Professional help is the key, but let's say this real quick. Let me say this. Black folks don't go to therapy, okay? Generally, they don't. And especially drug addict black people. That they have to hit rock bottom before they decide to make a change in their life. 9 times out of 10. I have seen them hit rock bottom and then bounce back. But as far as checking themselves into a treatment center or going and seeking professional help, I see that more amongst Caucasians than I do amongst black people. And in the black community, what we generally tend to do is either ignore it or deal with it. We ignore alcoholism. We don't deal with alcoholism head on or tell someone that they need to check themselves into a center. Or what we do, this is the other thing that we do as black folks. We ridicule them and make fun of them. Like, oh, there go old drunk Uncle Eddie again. Here he come with his old drunk self. You know, and we ridicule them and make fun of them. Or, you know what, he ain't no good. He ain't nothing but a drunken loser. And you see what I'm saying? That doesn't help him out of that situation. Now, I'm not saying that we can offer that help professionally, but what I am saying is that we can offer the help that we know how to give. And that's on that love,
Support and protect.
and protect. And when I'm talking love, support, and protect, I'm not talking about just that person. I'm talking about the family members around them. So when I see that I have a family member, especially a youngster or somebody that is doing something or acting outside of character with their parent, it no longer, I feel, is about me. It's about them in this situation that we need to take care of.
Well, there's a big difference between trying to help a child and trying to help a grown adult who might even be your age, your peer, or even older than you. Now, at some point, either these people are going to get it or they're not. And life is too short. And like we talked about the midlife crisis thing the other day, how much time are you willing to put and how much energy are you willing to put into this relationship to make it work with somebody that you don't have to deal with now? If you live, if you're 17 or 15 and you don't have a job and you're forced to live with a parent or a grandparent or an uncle or aunt who's toxic, then I understand that. But when you have choices, then there's other things that can be done. And I just don't necessarily feel like, and I'm not saying cut them off and shun them, but I'm only going to take so much, and you're only going to be able to show me so much before it's time for me to move on and worry about what's affecting me in my life. And if you're not a positive part of that, then I can't be a part of what you got going on.
I got this text this morning.
Okay.
It said, life is too short to wake up in the morning with regrets. So love the people who treat you right and forget about the ones who don't. You know,
I agree.
I mean, on the day that we're doing the Toxic Family Members show, this is the text that I got this morning. I want to read it one more time. Life is too short to wake up in the morning with regret, so love the people who treat you right and forget the ones who don't. Too often this is the mentality in the black community. As Latasha Mays just pointed out here, why don't black people like to go to professional help? I'm going to tell you why we don't like to go to professional help. Because we are a strong people. We feel like we are very capable. And I tend to agree. I tend to agree that we are very strong people and we've gotten over a lot in our lives. But things have changed. The environment has changed. The world that our mothers and fathers and grandparents knew is not the world that we live in right now. So we have to find different ways of dealing with what we are looking at, the world we're looking at right now. And sometimes I feel, as the person, as one writer has said, that we need to search for the old ways and see what worked in the past. Right. I don't like abandoning what my mother taught me because a lot of things that she taught me actually works today. And when it comes to the respect factor in aunts and uncles, I think when they say it takes a village to raise a child, it's the truth. And when we start taking away from the respect that we have, and I'm just talking about children, I'm not talking about adults. Let me get to that real quick, and I want you to make a comment. We might have to hit a break here, but let me get to that real quick. When it comes to adults and aunts and uncles, that's gone now. Stop it. Okay? We are now on the same level. You don't pay my rent. Okay? You don't put food in my mouth and you don't take care of my children. Now, is the respect factor still there? Yes, it will never leave. I will always have that for you.
Sure.
But you cannot treat me the same way you treated me when I was 12 and 13.
Well, like you just said, they're not paying your bills, they're not taking care of your children. Those are things that responsible people do now. We're not talking about necessarily responsible people. We're talking about toxic people here. And that's a whole nother difference. Now, I know times have changed. It's not the same days, but the respect and the value should remain the same no matter what.
Well, you know, when I say that, I'm saying that for a reason, because there are a lot of aunts and uncles that try to put their nieces and nephews back into the same, you know, place they were when they were children, and sometimes that kind of hurts. That kind of hurts. They damage their relationship because they haven't allowed that relationship to transition into adulthood. You know,
Okay.
you know, they still. Well, I don't know. They still relate to us in the same ways as they did when we were children, and that just can't happen anymore. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, I want to ask you all this question. Do you believe that within the family there are certain aspects of the old ways that we shouldn't let go of. And that's one of the things, that's what I kind of just was hitting on. Do you think that there are some of the things when it comes to family discipline, when it comes to the respect levels that the younger generation has for the older generation coming up, when it even comes to the time that we spend with each other, do you think that we should go back to those old ways, or do you think that we should adopt a new way of, hey, you got to give respect to get respect. You need to keep focus on your own family. Don't focus on your sister or your brother's children. Just focus on yours and make sure they're good. What do you think about that, and which way do you think that works? We're gonna get back in here.
All right.
Still checking each other out. Yeah. Nobody wants to love. Nobody wants to be loved.
Okay, so we get this real quick. Lori says, I know a black man in therapy for years. Says it's one of the best things he's ever done. I don't mean counseling. I mean psychiatric therapy. I get that. I get the psychiatric therapy. That's fine. And just because you're not counseling someone does not mean you can't help them.
True. I definitely agree with that. I'm going to let the chimers chime in. Please don't forget to tag and share this video. But I have another question as well. Maybe y'all can chime in on this. So, how do you know if you're the toxic family member? And a lot of the time, the people doing all this blaming happen to be the person who's in fact toxic. So how do you know if you're really the toxic family member or not?
This is what I have learned in the past, and that is that if you working on your fourth marriage, those 4 people might not be the problem. Okay, it might be you. Okay, everybody can't be wrong in the world, and you right and the world is wrong. So this is what I'm saying. You know that you're the toxic family member when the head bumping and the inward fighting always revolves around you. When it's always revolving, whenever auntie or cousin or uncle or this person or mommy or daddy, whenever there's an issue, somehow you're involved. That's how you know you're the toxic family member. And don't lie to yourself. Do not lie to yourself. You know when there's a falling out, if you got something to do with it, then you're the toxic family member. If you don't, if these situations, these type of situations don't recreate themselves around the family, then it's probably not you.
Well said, well said.
Okay.
Some people will deny that, though, that they are in fact toxic, because a lot of toxic people, part of their problem is denial, and they don't want to accept or admit that they're the wrong one most of the time. So, yeah.
Well, I wanted to run down this quick list right here. I found this on Facebook from a friend of mine, and these were some of the rules that she gave with dealing with family members. Maybe you guys have seen this on Facebook and have also shared it, but I just thought it was deep, because we were dealing with the toxic family members topic tonight, so I wanted to get in there and go ahead and share this with you, because I thought it spoke highly to what we're talking about tonight. So this person or this post says, I have rules to dealing with family now that I'm an adult. Key word, now that I'm adult. It's a 10-point deal, so I'm going to go ahead and read through all of them. You will not talk to me any type of way because you're older than me. I'm still an adult. Number 2, do not confuse my love for you as a weakness. I will cut you off. Number 3, I don't owe you anything. Anything I do is out of love and not obligation. Number 4, respect is a mutual thing. Number 5, I am not a bad person for calling out toxic behaviors or people just because they've been like that for years. I don't have to tell you my business. Number 6, I don't have to tell you my business, and if I do, it's not yours to tell. Number 7, I don't have to consult with you regarding my personal life choices. Number 8, if I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. Unsolicited advice from people who project their insecurities is the worst. I am not obligated to deal with you because you're family. If family events stress me out, I will not attend. You can come visit me though. But most importantly, you have to set boundaries with people in your life, especially family. I love my family, but I also hold them accountable for how they treat me, regardless of who they are. And I just want to get to point number 6, which is I don't have to tell you. No. I don't have to tell you my business.
Right.
And if I do, or if somehow you learn about my business, it's not yours to tell.
They ain't gonna respect that. Good luck with that. And, and that's just part of being able to put that wall up, because there are some things like that list, right? That's a long list of stuff that a lot of people are going to violate. And the one thing that you said on there that I kind of dug was, just because we're related or just because we're family does not entitle me to have to deal with you. Because I don't. Because I'm trying to raise my own family right now and live my own life. So is blood thicker than water? Who knows? But I don't have to deal with you just because we're family. I'm not obligated. And like they said about the gathering, if I'm uncomfortable and things of that nature, I don't have to attend. But I can't stop you from spreading rumors and talking crazy and spreading my business. Now I can limit to what I tell you. But if you're toxic, usually you're going to try to call other family members and dig up stuff anyway, try to make it seem like I'm the bad guy, when in fact, you're just reaching and you need something to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
You want to be a pot stirrer. You say you're finding something to throw in the pot so you can stir it on up.
To stir in the pot, because one thing that you notice about toxic, not just family members, but toxic people, it just seems like they're not happy unless they're involved in some drama. Do y'all know people like that? Like, no matter what's going on, it could be a perfect Christmas day. It could be snowing outside, beautiful, and grandma got stuff cooking on the stove, kids got presents, and that person just sitting there upset and angry, and they going to find some type of way to steal your joy.
They say they'll find a cloud for every silver lining, right?
Exactly. So to me, those people are rehabable. So I'll give anybody who wants to be toxic around me, I'll just be glad to give you your space. And hopefully, maybe in the future, if you can get yourself together, then maybe we can coexist.
Well, it says here on number 5, when it says, I am not a bad person for calling out toxic behaviors or people just because they've been like that for years. You know what? And that's right. I don't care if you've been a ish starter for a long time.
Right.
Quit starting ish.
Well,
and this is the other thing. Stay out of folks' business. Okay? If it has nothing to do with you, now understand what I'm saying. If it has nothing to do with you. Now don't tell me that it don't have nothing to do with me when it is affecting people whom I love. Okay? If you're doing something to my father, or you doing something to my sister, or you doing something to my brother, or you doing something to my daughter, and I'm going to take it a step further. If you're doing something to my baby's mamas, it's my business. Period and point blank. Sabrina said, did you already address how people feel about family still keeping your ex around you? No, we didn't address that, Sabrina, but I'm glad you brought that one up. I think when they break up with you, personally, and y'all might not want me to say this, but they break up with the family. Now, let me say this, because there is a caveat to that. If you all are married and had children, those other family members may have to deal with that person just because they're dealing with the children still. You don't want them to forget about the nieces and the nephews just because now you guys aren't married anymore. But this is my only thing. I am not the topic of discussion. I do not want you, if you're my brother or sister and you're talking to the mother of my children, to be discussing me under any circumstances. Because that's none of your business.
Sure, that's part of that respect.
Right. If you want to be there for the children, that is excellent. That is fine. But my name and what I'm doing and what I'm about should not come up.
I agree.
The only way your business gets out, you gave it. Keep your business to yourself. You're right. It's your business. And she's right. You should keep your business to yourself. But sometimes we do need family members to talk to and things to talk. but you don't go sharing that with other people. That's all I'm saying. If I talk to you and tell you that I'm going through some financial troubles and have asked you for a couple of dollars, I don't need you to go telling the other family members, yeah, you know, Terry was over here the other day. Sounds like he lost his job. Did you know that? And he was asking me for a couple of bucks. Did he ask you for money too? That's messy. And if that's what you do, then you might be that toxic family member. I'm just saying.
Could be. And one more question before we move on. Can you change a toxic person? To me, when you reach a certain age threshold, you can't put new stripes on a zebra. That person is who they are. And I think trying to change them will be futile. Now, can you still love, support, and protect them? Absolutely. But to try to change a person who's toxic, I don't think that's really going to work, or it's a realistic alternative.
So they've lived a life long of toxicity.
Right, and just like that Uncle Eddie you said that drunk.
That goes around drunk?
Yeah, he drunk all the time. Well, guess what? That's the reputation that he built for himself. He put that jacket on, and until he takes that jacket off, until people in the community are used to seeing Uncle Eddie not at the liquor store, at his job, maintaining a sober lifestyle and having sober, reasonable conversations, then he'll always be that guy.
Sabrina, I agree with you. If you're chilling with my ex, that's super sus. That's the kids say these days. You heard that one?
Yeah.
That's super suspect, and that shouldn't happen. There's no way you should be hanging out with my ex-wife or husband, especially if you guys are the opposite sex. That looks horrible. That's wrong, and it shouldn't happen. And I've seen situations like this go from bad to worse. If that person, like people say, I don't mess with people who mess with people that I don't mess with. Listen, if it's family and family runs that deep, nah, I can't kick it with you like that. I can't get down with you like that. Now, I can deal with the kids, but chilling with the ex, I don't know. Same sex, I don't mind, but opposite sex, I do.
You mean like a brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law?
My ex-brother-in-law.
Still keep it cool,
Right,
things like that.
right.
But when we talk about the opposite sex, then that's really a no-go.
Right.
It can have an effect on your new or future relationship.
Right.
So,
If I'm hanging out with my brother's ex-wife, that's not cool. You understand what I'm saying? If I'm a female and I'm hanging out with my sister's ex-husband, that's not cool. That is not good. I'm not saying that you can't talk to them and be cordial, but you need to keep that interaction, and especially public interaction, to an absolute minimum.
Right, and that's the thing when we talk about toxic people in general, cordial. And if you want to know the definition of cordial, it just simply
I think
means,
they know.
You know, I mean,
for those that don't, go ahead and put it out
what
there.
it means to me. That just means that, hey, if I bump into you at the grocery market,
Okay.
I will say hello.
Right.
I will ask you how you're doing. If you ask me the same thing, I will respond,
Okay.
and I will keep it pushing.
Okay.
But by no means am I inviting you to the next barbecue.
Right.
By no means am I sending you a Christmas card. Maybe I will.
Go ahead and preach.
But basically, high and by with no sharing of personal business, and that's the way that we can coexist. And that, in some cases, can be the only way.
Now, let me say this also when it comes to dealing with toxic family members. Maybe they were toxic at one time and they have changed. What we need to do as black people is allow old wounds to heal. Okay? If someone has done something to you outside of or has disrespected you, give it some time. Separate yourself with time. But at least come back to that person, allow that person to heal, and allow yourself to heal.
Right.
Unless it's something, one of those severe crossings of the line. And when I say that, that means any type of abuse. I don't need to get into the specifics, but if you've been abused by a family member, then I would say that you need to leave that family member alone. There is no time for rehabilitation. There's no, we're going to bring you back and now you can come to the barbecues. No. If you have been abused either physically or sexually by a family member, yes, you need to find that love in your heart, that support and that protect in your heart, and that's where it needs to stay. You need to give that person some space, and I would never put that person in the same position with myself or my children to repeat whatever happens.
So let me ask you this. So outside of the sexual and physical abuse that you just mentioned, are there any other circumstances where you should not feel bad at all about cutting a family member off completely? Like what if they
The only one I can think of right out the gate is money.
stole your money,
If they either stole your
stole
money
your car,
or they borrowed
stole
it.
your spouse?
Oh man, that's okay. That's heavy. If they stole your spouse, yeah, man, I can't mess with you no more.
How about just your car?
You stole my car. It depends.
And listen, and took it across the country.
You know what? You getting personal. We ain't gonna have to go there right now. But if they stole your car and they have stole several family members' cars, I don't know if it would be safe to leave car keys around them. But maybe you should just deal with them on a different level. I wouldn't put this is my thing. When a family member has violated that trust, you can still deal with them without putting them back in that or returning them back to that position of trust.
Right. But if I have to constantly watch my stuff around them and I have to watch every single thing that I do and leave around them, then I think it would be best if I just go ahead and disconnect from them personally.
Well, give them some time healing.
And I wasn't getting too personal. I was just saying, hey, you know, before I even started this, I said, let me be careful because I don't want to talk about certain people, and certain people know exactly who I'm talking about. But there are certain circumstances to where I think outside of the abuse things where you probably should just go ahead and cut ties with that person and maybe give them some time and maybe give yourself some time to heal. But if you're a thief, then to me that's one of the worst type of people in the world to have to deal with, and I just can't contend with people who are going to steal from me. Because if they'll steal from you, then they'll lie to you.
Exactly. And when they steal from you, when they lie to you, they are stealing.
They're basically stealing
because they're robbing you of your opportunities to truth. Listen,
right.
I want you guys to tag and share. Please don't tag and share this with your toxic family members because they'll know why you sent this to them. Put somebody up to that job. But hey, I appreciate you guys for coming on Mike and Mike at Night.
Appreciate you.
Hey, if you hear at nighttime,
then you hear at the right time.
This is Mike and Mike at Night once again.
Yes, sir.
Our news, our business. Hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it every night. We got a power pack show for you guys tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to get some things taken care of. Sabrina, you came at nighttime and you came in the right time, but you came a little late. But it's okay. You can go ahead and play it again. This is an excellent show. We had a lot of people in here today. Actually, we had a high viewership tonight. So we thank you again for coming in here. We're going to get these commercials rolling. We'll probably do that next week. With these black-owned businesses, but tomorrow's Black Friday, so make sure you come in here, Sabrina. We're gonna need you as well to go ahead and tag. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead. You took the words out of my mouth. Don't forget to tag and share this video. One love, family.
Hey, don't be that family member, Sabrina.
I love you. I love you too.
Mike and Mike at Night, signing out. Hey, y'all have a good one, man. We love y'all. Love, support, and protect each other. Don't forget to love, support, and protect each other.
I feel it so